Welcome, Dip Sankar, and it's a pleasure to talk to you in this program as part of the Kohli Day celebrations. To introduce Dip Sankar, he did his PhD from IIIT Hyderabad, graduated in 2014. That's my first PhD student, right? So, and then subsequently he did a postdoc at the Ohio State University. Then he came back as a faculty member at IIIT Guwahati. After a few years, he moved to IIT Jodhpur, where he is currently working as an assistant professor. His work is around computing systems, high performance computing, parallel algorithms, computer architecture, big data analytics, and those related areas. He also started working on research with societal applications in the field of medical technologies. Currently, is working on monitoring parameters for neonatals such as bilirubin and for the elderly such as their blood pressure, etc. So that kind of translates or emphasizes his research with deep societal connect as well. So welcome, Dip Sankar, once again. Very nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Please share some of your thoughts from your current workplace, your experiences, some exciting topics that you're working on, and so on and so forth.
Thank you for the introduction again, and I'm happy to be present in front of the IIIT ecosystem because it's been quite a long time that even I got an opportunity to visit the campus. I think I went back before COVID struck us back in 2019. I went and I was kind of hoping that I could be able to even join you in person this time. But again, because the semester is ongoing and I have a very hectic teaching schedule, I could not make it. But again, very, very happy that I could at least join you online. So to just expand on the things that you mentioned already, more or less, my current focus or my daily time that I spend most of the time working on is in parallel algorithms and especially problems that are lying in this intersection area of large data and computing systems. So still, I believe that there is a lot of work that remains to be seen and done on, coming up with newer data structures, newer machines, newer architectures and frameworks for handling large data, and specifically in the context of streaming data and data that is infinite and data that is difficult to be fit into one particular memory of a particular machine, so on and so forth. So that is one particular direction that I am spending most of my time on. Apart from that, as you already mentioned, that there is a very good infrastructure that exists over here in IIT Jodhpur, and we have a very strong collaboration with several hospitals. Most importantly, we have a very important tie-up with AIIMS Jodhpur over here, and there is the joint program that also we run over here, and that program basically enables me to talk to a lot of doctors. And, just through a very, very casual visit that I had with my daughter just for a normal checkup, we got into chatting with one of the doctors, and he's a doctor who is a his person who is very interested in engineering also. And he basically started talking about several of these problems that, where he mentioned that, in India, we spend so much of money that there are so much of these sophisticated instruments which are actually very simple devices, but are rarely manufactured here in India, but can be done very easily at a very low cost with some simple engineering components. So that kind of got me interested a lot. And I was happy to find a few students also who kind of tagged all of these project lines. And we started working on some of these medical technology direction also. So that is like another thing that I'm currently spending time to work on. Given apart from that, my regular teaching commitments are there. I'm teaching courses in multiple directions on related to architectures and GPU programming and big data analytics, so on and so forth.
I think from an experience point of view, you had the opportunity to work at multiple places, like one of them big in the sense of large groups like Ohio State. Couple of upcoming or early campuses like Guwahati, IIIT Guwahati, and IIT Jodhpur. So what do you see as your learnings from each of these different?
That transition was was intimidating at point and as well as extremely rewarding at the end. So if you think about it, at that time when I was working at C Star, the lab was really small and technically I was working with only a few of the MS students, and it was a really small and compact team that I was to work on. And when I moved to Ohio State as a postdoc, not only was I a postdoc over there, but also I was kind of responsible to mentor about 5 or 6 PhD students over there and take, leadership roles in preparing proposals and looking for funding opportunities, going and doing presentations, doing research presentations, most importantly, giving status updates. There's several kinds of these kind of things, which required me to kind of learn a lot about, multitasking in a very short period of time. Because in a team of that magnitude, where there are almost 8 or 10 projects that are running in parallel, about some 12, 15 PhD students are working in the same team. It was a bit intimidating in the beginning for me too, but you had to put in the work to really come up to speed with at least 2-3 areas. And I had to kind of, for example, the main research domain that I was kind of pushed into at that point of was in this area of the intersection of HPC and ML, which is ubiquitous nowadays. But about 7-8 years back, it was still a bit in its nascency at that point of time. So I was kind of jumped into that area within a very short period of time. I had to pick up that how do GPUs fit into large scale deep learning models and how to build abstractions, most importantly, around them, because ML engineers, we cannot expect them to write CUDA programs and detailed C++ programs every day. So building abstractions around them and having these efficient runtimes and these kind of things. So the engineering effort that was required was very significant at that point of time, and the outcome as a result of that was obviously expected to be industry standard pro codes, which absolutely I did not have much of an experience on that, what industry standard code production looks like. So that is another aspect of the thing that I learned. I had to learn kind of it in a very short period of time. That was an extremely rewarding experience, even though it required a lot of night outs and things like that to be put in. But the team was amazing, and there was a lot of friendly faces all around who kind of helped me to get into that role, fit into that role. But eventually, the main takeaways that I had from my postdoc position was to learn leadership, essentially, work in a team of such a large team, essentially, not one PhD student, 2-3 master students. It's a much, much larger team. That was a much, much bigger experience than learning how to write proposals, how to present proposals and talk about ideas in a very abstract form so that there are many people who can understand these things. These were my main takeaways, which kind of helped me to land some of my initial funding also as soon as I came back to India. Then again, IIIT Guwahati was a very, very different atmosphere where, again, it was a very small institute at that point of time, very up and coming, and I had to quickly go and set up my lab and start doing my things. Was very fortunate to again get a few BTech students who were. So one thing that I really emphasize upon is that I really worked upon my teaching initial days at my IIIT Guwahati days. I knew that there is not much of a research that I used to have that could happen at this point of time, at least in the initial few months. So I kind of put my 100% energy behind teaching my subjects as well as I can. And that kind of bear fruits very quickly, because there are many students who kind of got interested in, doing research in HPC, doing research in an architecture and things like that very soon. And they immediately contacted me and I immediately gave them some problems to work upon. It took a few years. It took about a year and a half to bear fruits, but ultimately they were able to produce very good publishable results at the end of that time period. So that is one kind of very, very good organic way in which I was able to grow my whatever presence I had at Guwahati. There were several reasons due to which I had to shift from there to Jodhpur. And again, Jodhpur was again, starting from scratch. But again, this institute itself is a massive, much, much bigger game that is over here. There is a lot of interdisciplinary talk that is going on over here. Obviously, computer science lies kind of in the intersection of many interdisciplinary areas. So even though it does not always lead to research projects or papers, I often get into these discussions where I'm talking to chemists and I'm talking to physics people and I'm talking to mathematicians who are talking about, writing algorithms, writing programs, and, not even purchasing servers or something like that, which I find to be very fruitful discussions from time to time. And that kind of transitions me into these various roles that I have played over the years. At Jodhpur also, I'm kind of more focused in that manner, that outside my bread and butter, I'm trying to do a little bit of more cross-disciplinary things to see that how we can solve problems. See, end of the day, it's still data-driven research. So I want to see that how rather than taking our data from our known repositories or things like that, what if there is so much of data that is actually getting generated right here inside our institute? How can we utilize that data? So there are cognitive neuroscientists that are generating, they have their EEG machines and so on and so forth. They are generating so much of data, which they say that they are still mapping into graph data structures and things like that. We do a lot of HPC in graphs, so why don't we talk and find out something that we can do together? So these are some of the directions that I'm trying to explore over here, and these are extremely interesting. Hopefully, we can do some good results, put out some good results on these lines very soon.
At least for the student audience at IIIT Hyderabad, I would step back a bit, ask a slightly different question.
Yeah.
I remember you started as an MS student,
right?
And after one semester, you converted to the PhD.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's important for students here to learn or understand that it's possible, and right ecosystem to be able to do all these upward moves actually. Right? So I just want to ask you about your thoughts, and if you had any apprehensions in making this move, and what were the let's say main.
Right. The easy answer to it is that I loved my life at IIIT Hyderabad. The campus life was just too much enjoyable for me to go away from within just 2 periods to 2 years of timeline. So that was the easy decision for me. It was my parents who were more apprehensive rather than me, actually. So I had to do the research that why should I actually continue at IIIT. After they started asking questions that really, do you want to continue? I mean, why don't you look abroad? You can go somewhere or go to an IIT or something. And then I kind of really thought, that might be a solution, but let me check it out. Because one good thing was that there were several people that time at C Star Lab who were extremely smart people, and they were doing so much of good work. So, for example, what should I say? You can call me a purist or something, or insane, I don't know. But, I sat in the lab where Professor Shinathan used to be there and his students used to be there. And their discussions was one of the most, eye-opening discussions that I used to have here. And I never knew that whether I'll ever pursue research in those directions or not. But that kind of, that environment that lab created, that kind of somehow gave me that idea that the discussion and the work that is being pursued in the institute, not only in our lab, but my friends that were there in CVIT lab or LTRC lab, in the other labs also, I continuously heard that they are working and publishing in topmost venues where, even people who are pursuing abroad are also pursuing and, publishing at the same venues, and they are also getting same kind of accolades. So why go through that again process of going abroad and things like that? Maybe, see, that might be a very subjective thing, but at least for me, that is what worked, because I saw that at the end of the day, it was never my intention to go and settle down abroad or something like that. I always wanted to stay back here in my country. And I was never really a big thinker upon my decisions. I used to always think that, if something feels right, do it. So it's like listening to your heart, So I had a good thing going on with working with you and the lab, and I was seeing my other friends also. I never saw any depressed people all around. Everybody was happy. So that kind of worked as a very positive thing for me to make that decision in a very quick period of time. And finally, you yourself and Professor PJ did an extremely good job of convincing me. So that's about it, because I went with just kind of, end of the day, you can say, just went with my gut instinct. It just told me that it's right. It won't lead to something bad, and it did not. I never regret my decision of converting. Yeah.
So maybe, one last question. So what would be your advice to PhD students in IIIT Hyderabad in
Right.
particular, or in the Indian context in general?
To put it very easily, one thing that I would like to see, your PhD is going to happen some way or the other, meaning you do not have to worry too much that, how many papers will I publish, or how much time is it going to take? These are all futile questions. You put in consistent amount of effort, the PhD or MS, whatever you are working on, that is going to happen. You cannot put a timeline on it. So you have to give it time, whatever time it takes. But doesn't matter if it takes 3 years or it takes 5 years. One thing that I really want to impress upon people is that, especially because it has been about 8 years that I have finished my PhD, and right now I am also talking to several younger much PhD students who are coming in faculty positions and things like that. Is that the breadth knowledge is something that is really, really important for everybody. So, even though you are working in particular one area of research, it is also important to develop your breadth knowledge to a significant extent, especially if you are wishing for a career in academics. But that also, irrespective of that, in a wholesome sense, try to develop your breadth knowledge as much as possible. Meaning, try to put your work in context of a larger domain where that problem actually sits. That will kind of give you a better perspective of why you are doing, and probably keep you motivated also that way. And second thing is that I see a lot of people nowadays very, very worried about their future, about after PhD. But if we were not worried, at least people from this generation should absolutely not be worried, because right now there is so much of opportunity. There is absolutely so much of opportunity, not only in academics, but so in the industry has completely opened their arms for PhD students. So there is a lot of opportunities for PhD students. And I think doing a PhD in a very early phase of your career is very rewarding, rather than waiting for it till a later part of your life and then doing a PhD. So if you are doing it as early as possible, I think you will end up a winner. Doesn't matter when, but it's an extremely good decision that you have jumped into it. Just enjoy the process. That's all that I can. Just be consistent. That's all.
So we'll stop with that, Dip Sankar.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us in this session.